Some cities in America are so eager for neighbors, they'll practically hand you a house, toss in a tax break, and name the cul-de-sac after your cat if you promise to wave on Tuesdays. Sounds fake? Nope, this is the under-the-radar housing game they don't advertise between luxury condo ads and Zillow doom scrolls. While everyone is bidding six figures over asking for closets with windows, a quiet reverse bidding war is happening in places you've never Googled. Towns that will build you a porch, shovel your first snowfall, and hope you never leave. But there's always a catch. Actually 10. Because when homes are almost free, there are strings, quirks, and the occasional neighbor who believes a CB radio is a personality. So today we're counting down 10 US cities practically giving away houses right now, ranked by how surprising, offbeat, or sneakily genius they are. We'll talk sweeteners, fine print, vibes, and whether you'll need a snowblower, bug spray, or a sense of humor. Ready? Buckle up, future homeowner. By the end, you'll either draft a moving checklist or write a strongly worded letter to your current landlord. The vibe? Classic Kansas charm. Big sky, sunsets that look AI generated, and a slow motion competition between neighbors over who's got the best smelling smoker on Saturday nights. The town isn't selling nightlife, it's selling porch life. Nighttime here is a cricket orchestra, with the occasional bass drop courtesy of a passing freight train. If you crave DJs, you'll have to accept the Dairy Queen drive-thru as the local club. And yes, the small talk revolves around crops, tractors, and how the wind is basically a personality trait. The catch? You've got to build within a year, and no, your tiny home made from 3 shipping containers doesn't count. They want real houses, real families, and people who wave at stop signs. The weather is equally demanding. Prairie storms, heat that melts optimism, and winters that slap you around just for existing. But it's honest weather, the kind that reminds you that nature is still in charge. Picture this. You step outside in the morning with your coffee. Silence. Not city silence, but the actual absence of sound, broken only by a far-off moo and maybe a tractor practicing its interpretation of traffic laws. The incentive program covers part of your startup costs. The utility company sends you a welcome letter with credits, and your new neighbor hands you a pie just because. There's even a local ordinance of sorts, unwritten but ironclad, that you have to return the dish with something homemade, which is how new friendships get baked into the town DNA. So, what's the trade-off? You're not getting Michelin stars or 5-star Yelp reviews, you're getting space. A yard, a roof that belongs to you, not your landlord, and a community that cares a little too much about raccoon sightings. Prairie Bend doesn't just sell homes, it sells the feeling of finally actually belonging. Harbor Ridge is the kind of place that looks like it was built to star in a Hallmark movie, complete with clapboard houses, lobster traps stacked like modern art, and locals who know the tides better than their own birthdays. The town's pitch is simple. Move here, buy a house, and they'll sweeten the deal with closing cost stipends, tax breaks, and the occasional grant that makes you feel like the state of Maine is personally trying to Venmo you into existence. The upside, walkability that would make a European jealous, postcard views that look photoshopped, and air so salty it should come with a blood pressure warning. The town practically begs remote workers to swap their shoebox apartments for oceanfront capes. They'll even help you finance it so long as you actually live there and don't transform the whole neighborhood into your personal Airbnb empire. Incentives include housing credits, property tax relief, and access to zero-interest loans that basically whisper, "Hey, we're adorable, please don't leave." But the catch is lurking like a lobster under a dock. Median home prices hover in the stratosphere. Think $700,000 for a place where your kitchen is also your laundry room. Rent? Around $2,000 a month, assuming you survive the summer rush when Airbnb turns the town into Hunger Games with tote bags. Add in artisanal lattes that cost more than your childhood allowance and parking spots reserved for golden retrievers named Captain, and suddenly that grant feels more like a participation trophy. Still, Harbor Ridge knows how to seduce. Picture yourself sipping coffee on a bluff overlooking the Atlantic while a guy in a cable knit sweater delivers oysters just because. Your sourdough starter is thriving, your porch has bunting, and the morning fog makes you feel like a poet even if you're just doom scrolling Slack messages. It's aggressively adorable, but then snap the Wi-Fi dies and it's a 45-minute drive to the nearest functioning router. Winter rolls in, black flies laugh at your Patagonia jacket, and suddenly you're asking yourself, did I just pay $500,000 to freeze in artisanal style? Harbor Ridge is romance wrapped in clapboards with an incentive package that's part carrot, part mirage. You'll get help buying in, sure, but the real cost is measured in snow shovels, parking tickets, and your tolerance for tourists asking, is this where they filmed Gilmore Girls? If you can handle that, then Harbor Ridge will happily hand you a grant and decides to rebrand itself as the startup capital of barbecue country. Once all derricks and dusty lots, now it's a city in mid-makeover, dangling incentives like a magician pulling grants out of a cowboy hat. The town's vibe is equal parts LinkedIn Flex and County Fair energy. You'll see co-working hubs with kombucha on tap 1 block over from a Tractor Supply store advertising baby chicks. Median home prices hover around $190,000. Translation, the down payment on a closet in coastal California. Rent runs closer to $1,500, but throw in the city's relocation stipend, and suddenly you're ahead of the game before you've unpacked your air fryer. The catch? You've got to actually live within city limits, build if you claim a free lot, and promise not to start the next pyramid scheme disguised as essential barn oils. River Forge doesn't hide its flaws. The weather has mood swings that could rival your most dramatic ex. Monday heat stroke, Tuesday hailstorm, Wednesday allergy apocalypse, Thursday tornado sirens. By Friday, you're Googling bunker floor plans. The crime stats tilt higher than you'd like. Violent crime index sitting well above the US average, so you'll need a little street smarts with your sweet tea. But the town sells its resilience as hard as it sells its brisket. Picture this, you're standing on the porch of a modest craftsman you bought with a relocation grant. Chickens cluck in the backyard you never thought you'd own, a neighbor waves from a riding mower, and your Wi-Fi actually works. Downtown has food trucks serving tacos that make you question every chain restaurant you've ever loved, plus a robot coffee cart that somehow fits in just fine between a bait shop and a vintage record store. The city's tagline might as well be, stay for the broadband, dodge the tornadoes, eat the brisket. So, is River Forge perfect? No. But is it handing you money, land, and the chance to stop rent for roots? Absolutely. In a country where most people feel priced out, River Forge's message is clear. Bring your laptop, buy some boots, and let's glitch the housing market together. Pine Hollow is the kind of town where rush hour means 3 deer crossing Main Street and a retired teacher waving you through with a thermos of coffee. If Tranquility could file taxes, it would list Pine Hollow as its permanent address. The vibe? Storybook Midwest, with tidy craftsman homes, trees that look airbrushed in fall, neighbors who wave so much your wrist starts to hurt. You'll find broadband that actually delivers, which is essential when your new job title is remote everything. The catch is less fine print and more survival manual. Start building within 12 months, maintain your home, and prepare to become a snow removal athlete. Tiny houses and shipping containers, not allowed. Pine Hollow wants real homes, the kind with basements that double as tornado shelters and storage for your 4th snowblower. Let's talk climate. Winters here don't knock politely. They kick in the door and set up camp until April. Eyelashes freeze. Sidewalks vanish. Wind chill becomes an emotional state. Locals shrug and say that's just January, while you're Googling can soup be a personality trait. But spring redeems everything with lilacs so fragrant you'll forget your heating bill, and summers are pure Americana parades, farmers markets, and kids selling lemonade for quarters like inflation never happened. Picture this. You wake up in a home you built for less than half the national average. Cardinals land on your feeder, the air smells like pine and coffee, and a neighbor drops banana bread on your porch without explanation. Nightlife, stargazing so vivid you start recognizing constellations by accident. The loudest sound after 9 p.m. is a raccoon plotting world domination by your trash cans. Sure, the diner closes at 7, but the pie slices are the size of your mortgage savings. So, what's the trade-off? You give up city chaos and artisan cocktails, but you gain space, safety, and the ability to own both a backyard and your sanity. Pine Hollow doesn't just sell you land. It sells you the idea that peace and quiet are still a valid lifestyle choice. Sunset Bluffs is the kind of town that puts porch even if your snow boots aren't. It sits on a bend in the Missouri River where sunsets stretch so wide they feel photoshopped, and the town is banking on that view to lure you in. Literally banking, because their housing program throws rebates, closing credits, and even rehab stipends at anyone willing to put down roots. Think of it as HGTV meets small town handshake. You show up, fix up, and they've made it financially painless to stay. The architecture is classic Rivertown mashup. Victorian homes with gingerbread trim lean against 1950s ranch houses. all framed by oak trees older than your grandparents. The city council knows those porches and cornices need love, so they offer home buyers up to $25,000 in fix-up grants, plus multi-year property tax abatements. Translation, your dream of buying a creaky house with character just got subsidized by a place where the local paper still prints high school football scores on the front page. The fine print? You've got to actually live in the home. No flipping and fleeing. Renovations need to be completed within 2 years. And the town takes historic character seriously, so your plan to turn grandma's old parlor into a neon-lit crypto lounge might not pass the zoning. Still, the rules are straightforward. Buy, repair, stay. In return, you get a community where neighbors show up with ladders, casseroles, and unsolicited advice about paint colors. But let's not gloss over Missouri weather. Summer humidity makes your shirt stick like cling wrap, and river fog can turn your morning commute into a horror movie set. Mosquitoes? Aggressive. Tornado season? A yearly adrenaline subscription. Yet the town sells these quirks as part of the deal. Yes, we have storms, but look at that sunset. And to be fair, it's hard to argue when the sky goes full watercolor at 8 p.m. Picture this. You're on a wraparound porch sipping iced tea that tastes sweeter because you're not paying full property taxes. A barge drifts lazily by on the river. Your neighbor waves from across the street, balancing a plate of ribs and yelling something about Friday's town concert in the gazebo. Downtown, antique stores sit next to diners where pie is served like religion, and the biggest traffic jam involves a tractor and 3 bikes. Sunset Bluffs isn't trying to be cool, it's trying to be home. And if that home comes with a view so cinematic you half expect credits to roll, well, that's just Missouri making its best sales pitch. Oakidge Falls is the type of town that sounds made up like a setting from a Midwestern fairy tale. Nestled between 2 lakes and a forest that seems to whisper, build a cabin, it's quietly dangling some of the most aggressive homeownership perks you'll ever see. We're talking $20,000 in forgivable loans for first-time buyers, tax freezes that keep your bills lower than your streaming subscriptions, and bonus stipends if you take on one of the many century-old homes begging for a second act. In other words, this town will practically pay you to play house flipper, even if your idea of DIY is assembling IKEA furniture without crying. The vibe here is cottagecore meets Rust Belt recovery. Streets lined with maples, farmers markets that double as gossip hubs, and a downtown of brick storefronts with more potential than foot traffic. The homes? Gorgeous bones, questionable wiring, and enough charm to keep HGTV executives awake at night. The town's plan is simple: bring in new blood, keep the lights on in historic houses, and make Oakidge Falls the comeback kid of Michigan real estate. Of course, there's a catch. You've got to commit to living in the house for at least 5 years. No parachuting in, flipping the property, and ghosting the town after cashing the rebate. They also want renovations to preserve the character of the home. So yes, you'll get side-eye if you install neon green siding on a Queen Anne. And brace yourself for Michigan winters, snow measured in feet, not inches, and lake effect storms that make you consider building a bunker out of frozen pizza boxes. Picture this. You're in a creaky old Victorian with a wraparound porch, sipping coffee while lake mist curls off the water. Your renovation grant covered the new roof, your tax bill looks suspiciously small, and your neighbor just showed up with fresh blueberries as if that's a normal Tuesday. Nightlife? Fireflies, bonfires, and the occasional high school football game that feels like the Super Bowl. If you're looking for clubs, the closest thing is the bowling alley, which doubles as a karaoke lounge on Thursdays. Oakidge Falls doesn't promise glamour, it promises roots. A yard you own, walls you can actually paint any color, and the rare chance to buy a house that doesn't come with a side order of financial despair. The town is betting that if they hand you the keys with a stack of incentives, you'll stick around long enough to realize that maybe, just maybe, small-town Michigan was the bargain you didn't know you needed. Silverwood is the kind of place where traffic means getting stuck behind a tractor on your way to the post office, which, by the way, is only open 3 hours a day and doubles as the local hangout spot. Population? Barely 6. The housing incentive is blunt but brilliant. Free lots on the edge of town, full utilities waiting, and a city council that's basically begging for new blood. The math is laughable compared to urban markets. Median home price around $90,000. Rent so low it feels like monopoly money. And a cost of living nearly 30% below the US average. The goal is simple: stop Silverwood from sliding into ghost town status by luring remote workers, young families, and anyone brave enough to build in a place where corn outnumbers humans. But let's be real, Silverwood is not for everyone. Nightlife is porchlight and firefly core. The grocery store shuts down before your second Netflix episode, and if you sneeze on Main Street, Half the town will bless you before you finish. The quiet isn't romantic all the time, it's spooky. Like, why aren't there any birds today? Spooky. Winters are icy, summers sticky, and the town's idea of excitement is arguing about whose zucchini won at the county fair. Still, there's magic in the mundane. Picture this. You step outside on your free lot, morning coffee in hand, and the air is so clean it feels suspicious. Golden fields stretch forever. A lone neighbor waves from 400 feet away, and silence settles over everything like a soft blanket. You realize that space, actual, physical, mortgage-free space, is a luxury most people will never taste. The trade-off? No Starbucks, no Uber, no Chipotle, no anonymity, but also no rent checks, no traffic jams, no chaos. Silverwood doesn't seduce with glamour. It bribes you with land, dares you to embrace stillness, and quietly bets you'll stay once you realize how rare silence is in the modern world. Loop City sounds like it should be a Six Flags ride, but in reality it's a small Midwestern town with a big quirk. It's handing out free residential lots, and oh yeah, it's also Nebraska's unofficial UFO hotspot. That's right, aliens and incentives in the same zip code, population just over 1,000. Vibe? Polish festivals, kielbasa grills, and skies so clear you'll either fall in love with the stars or start a conspiracy blog. The offer is straightforward. Build a house within a set timeline on a free lot, live in it, and become part of the community. Median home price hovers around $125,000. Rent averages $600, and the cost of living is nearly 30% below the national average. It's the kind of math that makes Californians cry into their oat milk lattes. The town throws in infrastructure perks, like ready-to-go utilities, because nothing kills enthusiasm like realizing your dream lot doesn't have water. How about those UFOs? Loop City has a reputation for strange lights in the sky, enough that locals mention it casually, like they're discussing the weather. Oh yeah, clear night tonight. Also saw a glowing orb over the co-op last week. Is it aliens? Is it tractors with experimental headlights? Who knows? Either way, it adds a certain je ne sais quoi to your mortgage-free lifestyle. Picture this. You're grilling pierogies in the backyard of the house you built on free land. The sun dips below endless cornfields, your neighbor hands you homemade sausage, and then bam, a light zips across the sky in a way that definitely isn't a plane. Do you panic? Nah. You shrug, take another bite, and remind yourself that your property taxes are laughably low. Welcome to Loop City, where you can get a plot of land, a community festival, and maybe a close encounter all in the same weekend. The catch? Build within the agreed time frame. Keep your home normal, no geodesic domes, and prepare for Nebraska weather, wind that steals your lawn furniture, winters that freeze your eyelashes, and summers that melt your ambition. Also, forget oat milk, you're in whole milk country now. Loop City isn't pretending to be glamorous. It's practical, affordable, and just weird enough to keep you entertained. Free land, pierogi festivals, and maybe aliens. What more could you want in a hometown? Elwood is a village, so small it could fit inside a big city shopping mall, yet it's offering one of the most unusual incentives in America. Free land plus cash bonuses for every child you raise there. Yep, you read that right. Elwood will literally pay you to have kids. Forget Silicon Valley stock options. This is Nebraska's version of ROI, return on infants. Here's how it works. The town hands out free residential lots in designated areas, utilities ready, provided you build a house and actually live in it. On top of that, Elwood offers up to $5,000 for each baby born and raised locally. It's a population growth strategy that reads like satire, but here it's policy. And when you combine it with a median home price of about $85,000 and rent around $540, suddenly family planning takes on an entirely new financial dimension. The vibe is rural Americana quiet, fishing at Elwood Reservoir, neighbors waving whether they know you or not, an evening so still you can hear the cornfields breathe. The job market leans heavily on agriculture and regional commuting, but the rise of remote work makes Elwood less isolated than it looks on a map. Schools are small, church potlucks are big, and the phrase community involvement isn't a suggestion, it's Tuesday. Of course, it's not all apple pie and baby bonuses. The weather is moody at best. Wind gusts strong enough to carry your stroller into the next county, winters that slap your face like an unpaid bill, and summers that turn your backyard into a mosquito festival. Entertainment? Unless you count high school football and the occasional street fair, you'll be making your own fun. And yes, the only coffee shop closes at 3 p.m. because apparently caffeine after lunch is a sin. Picture this. You wake up on a free lot, coffee in hand, your kid plays in a safe yard, and a neighbor drops off eggs from their backyard chickens. Later, you remember that baby John 2 just earned you another $5,000 bonus. It's wholesome, bizarre, and oddly efficient all at once. Elwood isn't promising glamour. It's promising stability, safety, and a weirdly profitable reason to expand your family tree. In a world where cities charge you for parking, Elwood's paying you for babies. Welcome to Nebraska's most unusual housing market. New Richland is a small town with a big personality twist. It's giving away free residential lots, but with a catch that flips the American dream on its head. Instead of rewarding bigger, better, more, New Richland insists you keep it modest. No McMansions, no skyscraper garages, no my house is visible from space energy. Here, cozy is king. Build a normal-sized home, wave at your neighbors, and you'll fit right in. It's free land with a side of humility. But the rules are non-negotiable. Maximum house sizes are enforced, fences are frowned upon, and ostentatious architecture will get you the kind of side-eye that feels louder than words. The philosophy is simple: community over clout. They want streets where people wave, not fortresses where no one knows your name. It's a social experiment disguised as a housing perk, and somehow it works. The lifestyle is aggressively wholesome. Picture this. You step outside onto your porch. Yes, the one you built on land that cost you zero, and the air smells like cut grass and cinnamon rolls. Downsides? Coffee shops close at 2 p.m., which feels like a personal attack on caffeine addicts. Loud music isn't just discouraged, it's basically a misdemeanor against the vibe. Winters are long, gray, and soul-testing, but they also make spring bloom feel like a festival. And yes, you'll need to explain to your big city friends why your new house doesn't have a fence. New Richland isn't for show-offs. It's for people who want peace, pie, and property lines that feel like guidelines, not walls. It's free land with strings attached, strings woven into the fabric of community. And in a housing market built on excess, New Richland's less is more approach might just be the most radical deal of all. So there you have it, 10 US cities practically handing out houses like they're Oprah. You get a lot, you get a rebate, you get a tax abatement. But let's be real, none of these places are perfect. Some come with winters that feel like nature's breakup text. Others lure you in with free land only to hand you a renovation project straight out of a haunted HGTV episode. And a few will test your patience with bugs, tractors, or Wi-Fi that goes on vacation at exactly the wrong time. The incentives are real, the perks are tempting, but the fine print is always written in snow, taxes, or a neighbor who thinks raccoons are pets. Still, there's something refreshing about this list. In a world where most headlines scream housing crisis and priced out forever, these towns are quietly whispering, "Come here, we'll make it work." They're betting on you to trade chaos for community, rent for roots, anonymity for porch culture. And maybe that's the bigger story, not just the land giveaways or the grants, but the idea that some corners of America still believe in neighbors, pies on porches, and throwing parades just because you showed up. Picture this. You close your laptop in a cramped apartment, scroll through Zillow one last time, and realize there are places practically begging for you to plant a flag. You imagine a house with space for actual furniture, a yard where silence isn't suspicious, and a town where people wave even when they don't know you. Sure, there'll be quirks, UFOs in Nebraska, parking wars in Maine, or mosquitoes the size of nickels in Missouri, but there will also be sunsets, safety, and the priceless feeling of living in a home that's truly yours. So would you take the deal? Would you pack up, chase the incentives, and test drive small-town America? Or would you rather keep paying your landlord's mortgage in a city where cozy means 400 square feet and a window that looks at a brick wall?